My name is Roy. I'm in third year pharmacology.
My name's Jane. I'm in the Faculty of Arts, and I'm doing a double major in East Asian Studies and Drama.
I'm Adrienne, and I'm in my third year of East Asian Studies.
Because I had talked to Professor Adolphson beforehand, like in fall term, about the course, I knew it was going to be a little bit different, but I didn't get to see the syllabus until like right before class and then in the first class. So the structure definitely seemed different. It was like, oh, there's no papers, there's no, it's all project-based, no exams, no midterm. Like, it was a little bit weird, but I was kind of excited for it because it looked like one of those courses where you could have a lot of control over your learning.
Honestly, I thought this is not what I signed up for, to be honest. I thought that, because he is such a well-known teacher within that faculty, and he is so highly regarded. I thought that we were going to be, learning a lot from him, but instead he kind of flipped the tables, and we were going to be doing like a lot of learning ourselves. Yeah, so it was very interesting. Like initially, I was kind of freaked out of the whole process of it. So yeah, I was kind of was sort of looking for approaching it with trepidation and fear.
Well, first going into the course, I was expecting the same format of lectures. It was, I was expecting to be very informative, a lot of lecture time with Professor Adolphson lecturing us, but instead we have no rubrics. We had a really rough outline of what we're going to do. There wasn't any Professor Adolphson normally would have kind of a timeline of which class is going to be on what subject, but instead it was just we're going to be split into 4 groups working on 4 different projects, and then we're going to come together and teach each other what we have learned during the course. So it was, we just didn't know what we were going to do initially.
My co-leader was sitting there, and he was like up all night. It was 3 a.m. He was lying in his bed, and he was the one that had the idea of coming up with a soap opera.
See? Now that you mention it, I see a man in the middle. Is some kind of auction? Wait. I want one. Just sit back and watch. You might learn a thing or two.
Our project was a video, is a video project. We thought of doing a video project with puppet, doing different kind of motions, and we would voice over it, use different kind of visual effects to bring them to different part of the city we're doing, which is Kyoto, actually modern Kyoto. We took them to different landmarks or places where we're going to talk about.
We wanted it to be interesting just on a base level, but also like kind of intellectually stimulating for people that aren't, because I mean, I don't understand this like mutual exclusiveness of, oh, it's either going to be entertaining and everybody's going to love it, or the academics are going to hate it. Why can't you have something that is appealing to general audiences, but also doesn't tick off the academics?
We try to put a lot of humor in it, because our understanding is that once you make your project very academic, very informative, a lot of people would go to sleep when they were watching it. A lot of people wouldn't be with it, but we made a lot of stereotypical characters in our video, and we made fun of them. And it was a lot of fun doing that, and I think that catches people's attention better than just telling them exactly what's going on. So with the project, we were trying to correct the misconceptions on ancient Japanese history and cultures that was misrepresented by a lot of pop culture today. I
think that's the one, I don't know if it's a problem or a hurdle sometimes with academia, is that, it's there's a barrier when it comes to being able to take information and make it fun and make it real and make it real world, make it something that's like entertaining and informative.
And just knowing that your work is going to be out there, being commented by people, being critiqued on by people, you take your work a lot more seriously, and you actually try to make it really, really worthwhile for other people to watch as much as getting a grade for it.
like I was able to use what I knew to actually create a product that was, interestingly enough, almost like patentable or marketable to like everyday life.
It's another a big problem that universities have, is that we have all these like, this is going to sound really bad, but like big walking talking heads, but there's no like skill sets that people have when they leave. And so when you get out into the real world, it's almost like a huge wake-up call, because suddenly, like, it's not necessarily about what's in here, but it's like how to bring that out and actualize it in a real world setting. And so this class was fantastic in terms of kind of identifying new skills, but also like little skills that we all had, kind of fine-tuning them and then taking them to another level, where we were able to come together, make a presentation as part of a group, and then leave with a whole, like, not just intellectual information, but also real world tangible skills.
We learned a lot of strategies about group management, people management. Some people prefer just to be given a task and be like, this is what we want done, and then they go and they do it and they come back. Some people have different strengths. Some people are better at presenting than researching.
A very big part of it was working in a group, working with other students. And I feel like that's a very important thing that we have to learn in our university years. And Professor Adolphson was very adamant on this, is teaching us how to work with each other, because when we go out into the real world, we're not going to be doing everything on ourselves, but we're going to be doing everything as a unit, whether it's just filming, whether it's, or maybe if you're a freelance author, but you're always going to be working with someone, as a scientist, as a dentist, as anything, any profession. So that's a very important part.
Working with this group for the whole term and kind of having to work together to develop our own project and like we also did lectures in the class, and we had to develop like what our topic of the lecture was and how we were going to organize that information. That required the group to be more like a workplace team, where you have to come together and develop a strategy and figure out how it's going to get accomplished at the end of the day.
In terms of our lectures, like, again, it's the one thing that I really enjoyed about it was because we were speaking about topics that we found fascinating, and we could present with enthusiasm very naturally. And I think when we heard other people present too, like, we couldn't help but just enjoy it so much and take so much from it, because people were speaking on subjects that they were interested about. So it's just, that kind of enthusiasm breeds enthusiasm. And I think it was just a great environment to learn.
Yeah, having it out on YouTube is kind of neat, because we're actually, if it was just a class project, we'd have no, like, oh yeah, we did this cool video for class, it was whatever, right? But now it's kind of become something that we're thinking of turning into a hobby, right? And making more episodes.
Just knowing that your work is not being acknowledged by the professor and fellow classmates, but everyone else have a chance to look at it. I feel like that's a really important part of the course, is taking what you have done, what you have accomplished, and actually putting it out there. And I feel like that's another part of that sense of accomplishment, is that you're not just keeping it to yourself. You're not just looking at what you did and kind of feeling good about yourself, but you're actually letting other people critique you, and that's how you improve, that's how you grow, I think.
Love for learning is like why we're all here, hopefully, right? And it's such an important part of life. And if you don't have that, life is going to be so boring, right? And so I think that was the one thing that this class really did foster, was, that intrinsic curiosity, and that, wanting to explore something and to, like, get those like little tidbits of information and gems.
The benefit of the class, I think, the biggest part for me is the feeling of actually accomplishing something, rather than sitting through a whole year of lecture and writing an exam at the end. And for me, most of my undergrad has been like that, and that didn't feel rewarding enough. It didn't feel like I've done a lot, rather than just putting up with the exam or learning to pass the exam. This time I felt like I was actually doing something and completing something. It was the feeling of accomplishment that was the biggest reward for me.